Hello again. You are at Kardec Radio, and this is Spiritism, a closer look every Wednesday at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. And I'm your host, Luiz Lima. Tonight, we are going to take a closer look at the improvement of mankind. It's a very interesting subject because that's what Allan Kardec tells us. In one of his definitions of what is Spiritism, he will say that the primary goal of Spiritism is the improvement of mankind. And that's in the book Spiritism in its simplest expression. So it's very clear why Spiritism is here from the codification itself. So Spiritism becomes this compound of several elements that will allow us to understand the tools that we have to improve morally. And these tools, there are many, many, many tools. So tonight, we're going to talk about three, maybe four, depends on time, of those tools, because there's a lot of small details and simple things that we wanted to bring out to you and discuss. It's a reflection for for all of us, for you and for me too. So let's bring some of these tools that we can use for moral improvement. First, and we hear this all the time, reincarnation. Okay, so instead of doing a 2-hour talk about reincarnation, we want to get straight to the point. So reincarnation brings this general idea of purification, as if you could go in a chamber and get out the other side, the other way, much better. And that's more or less what it is. We get into a physical, corporeal life, into the chamber per se, and we get out the other way. That's when we die, we discarnate, and supposedly better than the way we got in. So the thing is, this chamber, while life is taking place, while physical, corporeal life is taking place, we're not supposed to be static, just do like this and wait for life to happen. No, we require, that's exactly the opposite. It requires a lot of effort. It requires a lot of study. It requires practice, understanding, knowledge. So there's several elements in there that we need to make good use of, so we don't kind of waste, per se, the opportunity that we have here, the particular incarnation. If we don't do anything, purification does not happen. Purification is not from a very impure to pure in one lifetime. That's not it. Every lifetime, it's sort of a debugging process where we go through these sequential cleanups, per se, and clearing off our wrongdoings and all of that. So that's reincarnation. It's this opportunity that we have to improve one incarnation after the other. But again, we have to do something. We cannot stay static and wait for a divine decree saying, okay, you can go now, this life is done and you are much better. I give you a better grade. It won't happen like this. When we go to the Spirit's book, and Allan Kardec is talking about reincarnation, there's a question, it's very, very, very popular question in the Spirit's book, question 132. And we're going to talk about the question. And there's an answer to that question. And the answer is in two parts. Most of us look at the first part, we retain that, and we just go to the next question. But the second part of the answer is very interesting. So the question is about, it's when Allan Kardec asks the spirits, what is the purpose of the incarnation of spirits? So they will answer what we already know. God imposes incarnation for the purpose of leading spirits to perfection. That's a very clear answer. So, okay, we're going to come here several times until we get to perfection. We're not perfect yet, so we have to go through all these lives and all the process. That's the first part of the answer. Excuse me. There's a second part. And I'm going to read it to you. Instead of just talking about it, I'm going to read so you get it exact. Incarnation also has a further objective, which is to place spirits in conditions where they can do their share in the work of creation. Let's go a little slow here. To place spirits in conditions, meaning preparing spirits, to prepare spirits in conditions where they can do their share in the work of creation. So, share. Share means not alone. Every time we try to do everything by ourselves, we try to control everything, we are not sharing. So, we are not preparing ourselves to do our share in the work of creation. What is the work of creation? We are going to be much better spirits. We are going to be, we're perfectible. So we are going to be, for example, one day we are going to be like Jesus is now. And by then, we're going to have a much more, I would say, intense work within creation. But I have to be ready for that, to share my knowledge, to share what I learned. It's like if you want to go by analogy, think about a doctor, a medical doctor. For example, you cannot simply one day get into a hospital and say, get everybody gets out because I'm interested in saving lives here. It's not like that. You have to go through medical school. It takes a long time. You have to go through medical residence, internships. You have to go through a whole lot, several different things to acquire the minimal knowledge that places you in conditions where you can do your share within that ability that you have, which is medical, clinical service or something like that. It is the same way here. It is the same way. So, incarnating means that I'm sharing, I'm getting ready to share, but I should be already sharing what I know with the creation. If I know more than other people, I should be sharing with them. So the idea of doing everything by ourselves, everything alone, it's not sharing. So it makes it more difficult to participate in the process of creation. So that's, in just a few words, that's what the incarnation tool, we're talking about tools for moral improvement. So that's what I wanted to bring up in terms of what means to incarnate in terms of moral improvement, improvement of mankind. Second tool that I want to bring up, and we're going to talk about briefly because this is going to be developed later on another talk, free will. You see, the time that it takes for us to go from where we are to perfection, because we're going to go towards perfection anyway, but the time that it takes does not depend on anybody telling me this is the pace that you need to go, this is the route that you need to take. It's my own personal and not transferable choice. It's called free will. I define the time that I want to allocate for myself to go through the process. So, for example, I can come in here for this particular lifetime and say, this lifetime, I don't want to move a finger. I don't want to do anything. I want to be very, very lazy. I don't want to learn anything. I just want to relax. Yeah, that's a choice. You're not going to be, there's no impediment in terms of doing this, but it's a waste because I wouldn't be, I'm getting into the chamber and I'm getting out the same way. So I just wasted time instead of making good use of time towards my own benefit. So free will defines the time that it takes, but it also defines another thing, which is the intensity of the process. How much of a commitment we want to do to work on certain things. Right. So, for example, if you look at the, of course, these are special cases, but if you look at the life of Paul, Saul being Paul, you see the commitment that he put into once, he had to face Jesus telling him, why are you after me? Why, why are you doing all of this? So he had to make a lot of changes in this, it's a long process. He had to stay 3 years out just thinking of how am I going to do this thing. But he committed to do it. So in 3 years, the intensity of the process was 100%. He was 100% in it. And when he came out, he went back to meeting people again. And so then he felt he was a different man. But most of us don't do that. It's not common. It's very rare. Very few people that in humanity have done this, have gone through this process so fast and with such intensity. But that's part of free will. He decided to do that. He could have just said, "Yeah, I don't want to do anything. I'm just gonna, you know, lay around here and not do anything." No, he committed. So he used free will, which is time and intensity, in his own favor to make this huge, huge, huge transformation that we know. And it's a quite nice example for all of us. So that's number two, free will. The third tool that we are going to talk about today, it's pain. Nobody likes pain. But let's try to understand pain. What is pain? What's the meaning of pain? Why do we go through pain, moral pain, even physical pain? If you think about physical pain, for example, let's say you broke your leg. You just broke your leg for some reason and it hurts. You're going to be in a lot of pain. If there were no pain at all and you had a broken leg, what would happen? You would continue to walk or run, whatever, and you wouldn't be able to sustain the body as it should because your leg is broken. So you would probably fall, and you would probably break more parts, maybe your arm, your shoulders. It would be a disaster, one after the other, because you're not stopping to pay attention to your broken leg. Pain in a medical clinical concept is this. It's a sign, it's an alert sign to say, hold on, something is not correct here. So if you have a pain in your stomach, well, hold on, something is not right. Let's investigate. Let's see what this is. So the pain is a light on the dashboard. So something is lit, I gotta pay attention to that. That's the meaning of pain. In terms of moral pain, it means the same thing. It's an alert signal. But what is it showing us? It's showing us that we are getting into vicious practices. We are, there are too many vices. There are, taking over basically. And we need to have some sort of indication that this is the case. So we stop, just like the broken leg, stop. All right, what am I going to do from here on? What's going to be my approach? What's my process from here on? So the meaning of moral pain is that it's an alert signal because of our vices. And at the base of this pain, there are always the same two things, no matter what the pain is like, no matter what the outcome of the pain, no matter which light on the dashboard lit, it's always the same: pride and selfishness. Those are at the root of everything. So working on pride and selfishness, it's what's going to get us out of pain. It's what's going to make the light on the dashboard go off. Now, it's not easy. I'm not saying that's easy. In regards to pride, Spirit Emmanuel, in the book Thought and Life, very interesting book. I encourage you to read it. He says something that it just caught my attention one day, because you read the same book a few times and every time you read you get more out of it. So at one point, it just hit me. So he goes more or less like this. Think about a sequence of reincarnation. So life after life after life after life. And pride is there in every life. And if pride is not addressed, it's going to get worse, like a snowball, right? It's going to get worse and worse and worse. And there's going to be a point in one of the physical lives ahead where this is going to create, or this is going to generate, I would say, one of these four things. Those are his words, not mine. One of these four things. One, emotional imbalance. Two, nervous depression. Three, ulceration. See, now it's getting to the physical body. And fourth, cellular dysfunction. Cellular dysfunction means degenerative diseases. The body is falling apart because of pride that has not been paid attention to throughout all these incarnations that all these lives that we've lived before. And there's a price to pay. There's a price to pay, and that's what he's trying to explain to us. The price is high, and there's going to be a lot of pain, physical pain, because at one point it gets to the physical bodies, to the cells, and also moral pain. And there's a very interesting research, and that comes from over 30 years. And every day we know more about it, and we certify this more and more. Us, what I mean, us is society and medicine. Almost all the patients that have some form of cancer or had some form of cancer had cases of hatred and resentment that were not resolved. They were open cases. They never resolved. And they are there. They're causing all this cellular dysfunction, and they lead to cancer. Patients, all patients that have some sort of kidney trouble, kidney problems, kidney dysfunction, they have the same root, envy. And all the patients, these are three examples, and all the patients who had developed arthritis had the same root, pride. And we see this being validated day after day after day. So that it becomes almost like public knowledge. Louise Hay, one of the great spiritualists in America, wrote several books on it. Beautiful books. So we know that these things come from the vices, and they will get to us if we don't do anything, if we don't do things right. Now, for these things to take place, there are two factors. Not everybody has cancer, not everybody has arthritis, not everybody has kidney problems. Two things need to be in place at the same time for these degenerative diseases to develop. Number one, it's what we call the predisposing factors. Predisposing factors have to do with our physical bodily composition. It has to do with our DNA, our genetics. In our genetics, in our DNA, we might have things such as this could turn into, let's just say, a diabetes. This could turn into an awful heart disease. It doesn't matter that I'm going to have it, but my genes are kind of, if you will, open for that. Potentially, the situation is there. Now, that's when the second factor comes in place. The second factor is called the triggering factor. So, predisposing and triggering. One without the other will not make this happen. Triggering factors do not have anything to do with DNA. They have to do with our state of mind. The practice of ISIS is what triggers problems. So if I have a predisposing situation for a certain disease, and my behavior is awful in terms of moral standards, and you know not doing the right thing, and so the triggering factor might, with the predisposing factor, together develop in some sort of degenerative diseases. Now, think with me, how much percent am I responsible for my triggering factors? 100% my vices. That's me. It's personal and not transferable. If I have some, I don't know, envy, right? I cannot transfer that over to somebody else. Nobody can transfer pride over to me, and so and so and so. It's personal and not transferable, triggering factors. Now let's look at, so 100%, I'm responsible 100% for them. Go back to the other one, predisposing factor. Think with me. How much percent am I responsible for my predisposing factor? There's the easy answer. The easy answer is nothing. It's my mother and my father. They are the ones who gave me the genetics that I have. They are the ones who, gave me the DNA that I have. That's the easy answer, but that's not the right answer. You see, my predisposing factor is in my DNA, my genetics. Now, why do I have the DNA that I have? Why was I born with the DNA that I have? Because prior to incarnating, we prepared the incarnation with higher spirits that are with us, helping us. And then we will look into the history, the spiritual history, and come up with things like this has to be worked on. If you don't work on this, we're going to put an alert. Pain, you're going to have pain. So the pain will come if your genetics is this way, because if you do something wrong, your body's going to feel you're going to be in pain. So the predisposing factor is a pre-programmed thing or tool, I would say, that I did it myself with the concourse of the higher spirits to be able to face this new life that I'm going to go in properly with the right tools that will help me. So how much am I responsible for my predisposing factors? 100%. Because it has to do with my own personal, non-transferable spiritual history. 100%. So I'm responsible 100% of all these things, whatever happens to me. It's just me. It's the way I see things. It's the way I interact with people and the world, the creation itself. And then the next thing following pain comes over, which is still part of this pain that we go through, which are these people that we call the enemies, because they cause pain. I don't like that person because every time I'm with that person, I feel whatever. I don't have patience with that person. When I'm with them, I want a revenge. I want whatever it is. So you see, the person, we call the person the enemy, but they're not really the enemy. Some of our enemies don't know they are our enemies. We don't know that we are some people's enemies out there. The people are not the enemies. The enemies are pride, envy, selfishness. The devices are the enemies. They are the ones that are causing us pain. It's not the person. It's not that guy, that person, that woman. No, it's devices. They are causing the pain. So we're trying to look at things from a different perspective, creating almost like a new paradigm. If the enemies, the people, right? If these people are not the enemies, so what are they in this new context? So now I shift gears because my enemy is no longer, let's say, John. My enemy now is pride. So what is John then? This is how I see it. John is the battlefield. These people are the battlefield. That's where I go to face the enemy and take it down. If every time I meet John, envy pops up, for example, obviously there's a problem there, but John is not my enemy. Envy is my enemy. John just makes me relive whatever process I have to work on. So if I want to get rid of my envy, if I want to, just work on this, it's not 5 minutes, it's not a snap of fingers, it's a process. But you see, when do you defeat the enemy? When you go to the battlefield and you fight. If I don't go to the battlefield, automatically I lost the battle. The enemy won automatically. So somebody invites me to a party. I say, "Oh, you want to come to this party on Saturday night?" And I ask them, "Okay, who is coming to the party?" Oh, wrong question. You see, because if the person says John is coming to the party, I'm going to say, "Oh no, I can't go. No, John, no, 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 no." So I'm going to start, you know, spitting excuses. So I don't go there to the party because John is going to be there. And supposedly he's my enemy. He's not. Envy is my enemy. If I don't go to the party, if I don't go to where John is, which is the battlefield, I'm not going to improve. I'm taking the opportunity, I'm taking from myself the opportunity to win over the enemy, to win the battle. For me to win the battle, two things have to be in place. I need to be on the battlefield, and the enemy needs to be clear. Who is the enemy? So I don't work on the wrong thing. So who is the enemy? It's envy. What happens every time I see John? He has whatever, a nice car that I don't have, and I can't stand it. So John is the one I want to be close to as much as I can. It doesn't mean that we need to be buddy buddies, but I can't avoid being near him every single time. No, at times I want to look for him because I need to be with him to work on my enemy. He's my battlefield. He is what makes me face the enemy. He's nothing more than a battlefield. So these battlefields allow us to face the enemy. So one day we can defeat the enemy. I'm not saying it's going to be on the first day or in the first 5 minutes, but we want to defeat the enemy. And I can only do this if I face the enemy. So with this new paradigm, it makes no sense calling anybody, especially those that we don't get along with, enemies, because they are not. And that hopefully that changes everything. That changes perspective. That makes me go after these people because they allow me to face the enemy. And one day I'm going to face the enemy. Yeah, I'm going to lose a few times. It's going to be hard in the beginning. Absolutely. It's going to be awful at times. Oh, yeah, it will. But it's going to get better. On the second battle, I'm going to go in more confident than I went into the first. On the third battle, I'm even more, and fourth, and fifth, and so to a point where one day the enemy is going to disappear because I'm going to show up in the battlefield and the enemy is not there. That's the day of the victory. And we do this for every single vice. Now, we have a million vices, all of us, all of us. So in order to offset, which basically what we're doing is correcting our wrongdoings of the past. If we had to do all of this in one lifetime, if we had to offset all our wrongdoings to get rid of all this pain in one lifetime, we wouldn't be able to. We wouldn't be able to. It's just too much. So we were offered a tool that we already spoke about that allow us to pay for this in installments, a little bit at a time. That's called reincarnation. So I'm paying a little bit on this life, a little bit more on the other life, and then a third life, and then a fourth life. We are paying. God is so great that He allows us to pay for every wrongdoing, every atrocity that we did in any of our past lives in small installments, and it gets better. How much I'm gonna pay? Like if you buy a car, it's a pre-established monthly payment, and you gotta pay that. If you don't pay, there's more penalties, right? God is so great that He allows us, each one of us, to establish how we are gonna pay these installments. Well, this next life I want just a little bit. Next life I don't want to pay anything. I just want to sit down, relax, and not do anything at all. And yes, we can do that. He allows us to do that. That's mercifulness. That's how great God is. So He will look at all of our atrocities, everything that we did, every vice that we carry, and He will say, son, just pay as you can. When you cannot, just go and pay when you can. That's the greatness of the Creator. Well, thanks, Carolina, for your comment. Hopefully, I was able to convey the message that I planned for this evening. It's a long subject, of course. We could be talking about the enemies, both of them, right? The people and the vices for a long time. There's so much that we can say here. But that's not the point today. We just want to create awareness. It's maybe a shifting paradigm that will help us find how to better use the tools that are already available to us. We just need to use them properly. Guys, thank you very much for participating with us, for sharing ideas, for any comments that you have, any ideas that you have, suggestions. Just let us know. Just go to kardecradio.com, visit us on the site, and just write to us. I'm Luiz Lima. It was a pleasure being here with you tonight, and we'll be here next week with another subject. Thank you very much. Stay well.